Day 63 of the zombie apocalypse. Humanity had learned one simple rule. Run when you see them. Because zombies never stop hunting. But on that day, something impossible happened. Across the entire city, every zombie suddenly stopped attacking humans. They just stood there. And then, they all looked up at the sky. Day 63 after the outbreak. The world had already fallen apart. Cities were empty skeletons of concrete and broken glass. Highways were filled with rusting cars, abandoned in the middle of desperate escapes. Fires burned endlessly in distant neighborhoods where no one remained alive to put them out. And everywhere, the dead walked. For 63 days, humanity had lived with one constant truth. Zombies never stopped hunting. Not when they were injured. Not when they were surrounded. Not even when they were outnumbered. They chased. They attacked. They killed. Every time. That's why Marcus didn't question his instincts when he heard the growl behind him. He ran. His boots slammed against the pavement as he sprinted through the empty street. His lungs burned as he pushed himself forward, weaving between abandoned cars and fallen street signs. Behind him, several zombies stumbled into view. Their gray skin stretched over rotting faces. Their movements were jerky, unnatural, but terrifyingly fast. Marcus didn't look back again. He already knew what he would see. More of them. There were always more. He turned the corner of a narrow street and dashed toward a half-collapsed convenience store. Inside, the shelves had already been stripped clean by other survivors. Broken glass covered the floor. Marcus slammed the door behind him and pushed a metal rack against it. His breathing echoed loudly in the empty room. Outside, the zombies approached. He could hear their footsteps. Slow. Dragging. Relentless. Marcus grabbed his knife and held it tightly. If they broke through the door, he would fight. He had no other choice. The footsteps stopped. Marcus froze. For a moment, the silence felt wrong. He waited. Nothing happened. No scratching at the door. No pounding fists. No growling. Marcus frowned. That's weird. He slowly moved closer to the door. Carefully, he peeked through a crack in the broken window. 3 zombies stood outside. They weren't attacking the door. They weren't even moving. They just stood there. Perfectly still. Marcus blinked. What the hell? He pushed the door open slightly. The zombies didn't react. One of them was only a few feet away from him. Normally, that distance would have meant instant death. But the creature didn't lunge. It didn't growl. It didn't even look at him. It simply stood there, staring into the distance. Marcus waved his hand in front of its face. No response. The zombie looked past him as if he didn't exist. Marcus felt a strange chill creep down his spine. This isn't right. Then something even stranger happened. The zombie slowly lifted its head. Not toward Marcus. Toward the sky. Marcus followed its gaze. The sky was gray with thick smoke from distant fires. At first, he saw nothing unusual. But then the second zombie lifted its head too. Then the third. All 3 of them stared upward. Completely silent. Marcus stepped outside the store. He looked down the street. More zombies stood there. Dozens of them. And every single one of them was looking up. Marcus felt his stomach twist. He slowly climbed onto the hood of a nearby car to get a better view. The street stretched for blocks. Zombies filled it. Hundreds of them. All standing perfectly still. All staring at the sky. Marcus whispered to himself. What are they looking at? Then he heard footsteps behind him. Human footsteps. Marcus spun around instantly, raising his knife. A young woman stood in the street. Her clothes were dusty, her hair tied back tightly. She held a rifle in her hands. "Easy," she said calmly. "I'm not infected." Marcus lowered the knife slightly. "Name's Marcus." "Eva," she replied. She looked around the street in confusion. "You noticed it too?" Marcus nodded. "Yeah." Zombies stopped attacking. Eva studied the motionless creatures carefully. "This isn't random." Marcus frowned. "What do you mean?" She pointed upward. "They're reacting to something." Marcus followed her gaze again. The sky looked the same. Smoke. Clouds. Nothing unusual. Then suddenly, one of the zombies opened its mouth. A deep sound escaped its throat. Not a growl. Not a scream. Something else. A long, low tone. Another zombie joined. Then another. Within seconds, the entire street was filled with the sound. Hundreds of zombies making the same strange noise. Marcus felt the vibration in the air. "What the hell is that?" Eva's eyes widened slightly. "They're not attacking anymore." She looked at Marcus. "They're communicating." Marcus stared at the endless rows of zombies. His heart started pounding faster. Communicating? That was impossible. Zombies didn't think. Zombies didn't plan. Zombies didn't communicate. But the sound kept growing louder. It spread through the city like a signal. More zombies appeared from side streets. They all joined the strange chorus. Marcus slowly turned back toward the sky. And then, he finally saw it. Something far above the clouds. A faint moving shape. Not a helicopter. Not a plane. Something much larger. Eva noticed it too. Her voice dropped to a whisper. "Oh my God." Marcus stared at the distant object in horror. "What is that?" But before Eva could answer, every zombie in the street suddenly stopped making noise. Complete silence fell over the city. Then slowly, every single zombie turned their heads in the same direction. Not toward the sky. Toward the north side of the city. Marcus felt a cold wave of dread run through him. "Why are they doing that?" Eva's voice trembled. "I think something is coming." In the distance, a massive shadow began moving between the skyscrapers. Not one zombie. Not 100. Thousands. An enormous horde pouring into the city. But they weren't chasing anyone. They were moving together. Like an organized army. Marcus whispered in disbelief. "Zombies don't move like that." Eva stared at the approaching mass. Her voice was barely audible. "Not unless something is controlling them." The city had never felt this quiet. Marcus and Eva stood in the middle of the abandoned street, surrounded by dozens of motionless zombies. The creatures were everywhere, standing between broken cars, leaning against cracked walls, frozen like statues. Yet none of them attacked. Marcus slowly lowered the knife in his hand. "This doesn't make sense," he said under his breath. Eva walked carefully past one of the zombies. The creature didn't react at all, even when she passed only a few inches away from it. Its gray eyes stared forward, unfocused. Like it was waiting for something. Eva waved her hand in front of its face. "Nothing." "No reaction," she said quietly. Marcus frowned. "That's impossible. Zombies react to movement, sound, even smell." Eva nodded slowly. "I know." Marcus looked down the street. More zombies stood there. Hundreds of them. All facing different directions, but all perfectly still. The strange humming sound they had heard earlier had disappeared, leaving the city trapped in an eerie silence. Marcus felt uneasy. "I don't like this." Eva glanced toward the horizon. Something changed. Marcus kicked a small rock across the pavement. The sound echoed through the empty street. Normally that would have triggered chaos. Dozens of zombies would rush toward the noise. But nothing happened. Not a single one moved. Marcus shook his head in disbelief. It's like someone pressed pause. Eva crossed her arms, thinking. Maybe it's temporary. Temporary? Marcus repeated. Maybe whatever controls their aggression stopped working. Marcus raised an eyebrow. You're saying the virus just stopped? Eva didn't answer. Instead, she looked toward a nearby building. A pharmacy. The front windows were shattered, but the door hung half open. Let's check inside, she said. Marcus followed her cautiously. They stepped over broken glass and entered the dark building. The shelves inside were mostly empty, but a few medical supplies remained scattered across the floor. Marcus grabbed a flashlight from his backpack and turned it on. The beam cut through the darkness. Think other survivors noticed this? He asked. Eva knelt beside a shelf, searching through a box of bandages. If they did, they'll come out soon. Marcus walked toward the back of the store. A hallway led to a small storage room. As he approached the doorway, he heard something. A faint sound. Breathing. Marcus raised the flashlight. Hello? He called softly. A terrified voice answered from the darkness. Don't come closer. Marcus froze. Easy. We're not infected. A young man slowly stepped out of the storage room. His clothes were dirty and torn, and he held a metal pipe like a weapon. His eyes were wide with fear. You're alive, the man said. Eva approached slowly. So are you. The man lowered the pipe slightly. I thought I was the only one left in this block. Marcus gestured toward the street. You noticed the zombies? The man nodded nervously. They just stopped. He wiped sweat from his forehead. I thought maybe I was hallucinating. Eva asked carefully. How long have you been hiding here? 3 days. Marcus exchanged a glance with Eva. Then you saw it too, Marcus said. Saw what? The man asked. Marcus hesitated. That thing in the sky. The man's face suddenly went pale. You saw it too? Eva stepped closer. What did you see? The man pointed toward the ceiling. A shadow. Marcus frowned. A shadow? The man nodded quickly. Last night. Right before the zombies stopped attacking. He swallowed hard. It moved across the clouds. Marcus looked at Eva. That's exactly when everything changed. Eva's expression darkened. What kind of shadow? The man shook his head. I couldn't see clearly. It was huge. Marcus crossed his arms. A plane? No, the man whispered. Too big. The three of them fell silent. Outside, the city remained eerily quiet. Then suddenly, the humming sound returned. Low. Deep. Vibrating through the walls of the building. Marcus's eyes widened. That sound again. Eva ran toward the shattered window and looked outside. Her face immediately tensed. Oh no. Marcus rushed to her side. What is it? Eva pointed down the street. The zombies were moving again. But not like before. They weren't attacking. They weren't running. They were turning. Slowly. All of them. Every zombie in sight turned toward the north side of the city. Marcus felt his heartbeat quicken. They're responding to something. The humming grew louder. Dozens of zombies began producing the sound. Then hundreds. The entire street vibrated with the eerie chorus. The man in the pharmacy backed away in terror. What are they doing? Marcus stared at the horizon. I think they're being called. Eva whispered. Called by what? Marcus squinted toward the distant skyline. Something was moving between the buildings. A massive shape. Far away. But growing larger. The humming sound suddenly stopped. Every zombie stood perfectly still again. Then simultaneously, they all began walking in the same direction. North. Thousands of them. Marcus felt a chill crawl up his spine. They're gathering. Eva nodded slowly. Yes. Her voice was barely a whisper. And whatever called them is getting closer. Marcus watched the endless stream of zombies moving through the city. Then suddenly, one zombie stopped walking. It slowly turned its head. Not toward the north. Toward the pharmacy window. Directly at Marcus. Its gray lips twitched slightly. And for the first time since the outbreak, the zombie smiled. Marcus felt the blood drain from his face. The zombie outside the pharmacy window was smiling. Not a random twitch. Not a spasm. A real smile. Slow. Deliberate. Marcus stepped back instinctively. Did you see that? He whispered. Eva nodded slowly, her eyes fixed on the creature. Yes. The young survivor behind them tightened his grip on the metal pipe. That thing just looked at us. Marcus tried to steady his breathing. Zombies don't smile. Eva didn't respond. Outside, the street had changed again. Thousands of zombies continued walking north, moving like a slow river of decaying bodies. But the one near the window hadn't moved. It simply stood there, watching them. The creature's gray eyes looked strangely focused. Aware. Marcus raised his flashlight slightly, illuminating its face. The skin was pale and cracked. Dark veins spread across its neck like twisted roots. But the eyes looked different. They weren't empty like the others. They were alert. Eva leaned closer to the window. That's not normal infection behavior. Marcus gave a nervous laugh. Nothing about today is normal. Outside, the smiling zombie slowly lifted its head. The humming sound began again. Low. Vibrating. But this time, it wasn't coming from hundreds of zombies. It was coming from this one. Marcus felt the sound in his chest. What the hell is it doing? Eva watched carefully. It's signaling. Marcus frowned. To who? Before she could answer, something unexpected happened. The zombie raised its arm. The movement was smooth. Controlled. Marcus's heart started pounding. That thing is giving a signal. Eva's eyes widened. Marcus. What? That's not a random movement. Outside, several zombies walking down the street suddenly stopped. Slowly. They turned around. Not toward the north. Toward the pharmacy. Marcus whispered. No way. 10 zombies now faced the building. Then 20. Then 50. Marcus grabbed his rifle. Okay. That's bad. The young survivor panicked. You said they stopped attacking. They did, Marcus replied quickly. But now something is changing. The humming sound grew louder. The smiling zombie lowered its arm. Instantly, every zombie that had turned toward the pharmacy began walking forward. Marcus's pulse raced. They're coming here. Eva stepped away from the window. Back door. Marcus nodded. Move. They rushed through the pharmacy toward the rear exit. The young survivor followed closely behind. Marcus pushed the back door open. An alley stretched behind the building. Trash bins. Broken fences. Empty darkness. Go, Marcus said. They hurried into the alley. Behind them, the humming sound intensified. Marcus risked a glance over his shoulder. The front windows of the pharmacy shattered. Dozens of zombies were forcing their way inside. Run! Marcus shouted. They sprinted down the alley. Their footsteps echoed between the narrow walls. Marcus could already hear the infected crashing through the building behind them. But something was wrong. The zombies weren't screaming. They weren't charging wildly. They were moving with disturbing coordination. Eva suddenly grabbed Marcus's arm. Wait. Marcus stopped. What? Eva pointed toward the end of the alley. More zombies stood there, blocking the exit. Marcus cursed under his breath. They're surrounding us. The young survivor panicked. There's too many. Marcus looked around quickly. A metal ladder hung from the side of the building, leading to the rooftop. Up there, Marcus said. They climbed the ladder as fast as they could. Marcus reached the roof first and helped pull the others up. The city stretched around them in darkness. And everywhere, zombies were moving north. Thousands of them. Marcus grabbed a pair of binoculars from his bag. I want to see what they're heading toward. Eva stood beside him. What do you see? Marcus looked toward the northern skyline. At first he saw only shadows between the buildings. Then something massive moved. Marcus froze. Oh no. Eva took the binoculars from him. Her eyes widened immediately. In the distance, surrounded by thousands of zombies, something was walking through the streets. Something tall. Much taller than the others. Its body moved slowly but confidently. And the zombies around it weren't attacking. They were following it. Like soldiers following a commander. Marcus whispered. That's not a zombie. Eva lowered the binoculars slowly. Yes, it is. Marcus shook his head. No infected moves like that. Eva's voice trembled slightly. That thing is controlling them. Marcus stared at the massive figure approaching the city center. Then why did they stop attacking humans? Eva didn't answer right away. Instead, she looked down at the streets below. More zombies were gathering near their building. Hundreds now. Marcus noticed something else. They're not climbing. Eva followed his gaze. The zombies were simply standing around the building. Waiting. Watching the rooftop. Marcus felt a chill run through him. They're not trying to kill us. Eva nodded slowly. No. Her voice was barely a whisper. They're waiting for someone. Marcus frowned. For who? Eva turned toward the northern skyline again. The massive figure had stopped moving. Even from this distance, it felt like the creature was watching the city. Watching everything. Then suddenly, the humming sound returned. But this time, it wasn't coming from the zombies. It was coming from that giant figure in the distance. Marcus felt the vibration travel through the air. What is that thing? Eva stared at the approaching monster. Her voice filled with dread. I think that's the one giving the commands. Marcus looked back toward the rooftop door. A loud metal bang echoed from below. The zombies had reached the stairwell. But they weren't trying to break the door. Instead, something else was climbing the stairs. Heavy. Slow. Deliberate. Eva whispered in fear. Marcus. I think the leader just sent something to come get us. The heavy footsteps inside the building grew louder. Slow. Deliberate. Each step echoed through the stairwell like a warning. Marcus tightened his grip on the rifle. Something's coming up. Eva stood near the rooftop door, her rifle aimed directly at it. The young survivor backed away, fear written across his face. That's not normal zombie movement, he whispered. Marcus nodded. No. It isn't. Below them, the footsteps stopped. Silence fell over the rooftop. For a moment, the entire world seemed frozen again. Marcus glanced toward the edge of the building. Hundreds of zombies still surrounded the structure below. They weren't climbing. They weren't attacking. They were simply standing there. Watching. Waiting. Eva kept her eyes on the rooftop door. Why aren't they rushing us? Marcus answered quietly. Because they don't need to. A loud metallic click echoed from the door. The handle slowly began to turn. Marcus raised the rifle. Get ready. The door creaked open. For a second, nothing appeared in the doorway. Only darkness from the stairwell. Then a figure stepped onto the rooftop. Marcus immediately knew something was wrong. It was a zombie. But not like the others. Its posture was straight. Its movements smooth and controlled. The creature's skin was pale, stretched tightly over its bones. Dark veins spread across its neck and face like cracks in stone. But its eyes were the most disturbing part. They weren't empty. They were focused. Aware. The zombie looked directly at Marcus. Then at Eva. Then at the third survivor. Marcus felt a chill run down his spine. That thing knows we're here. Eva whispered. It's not just infected. The zombie took another step forward. Its head tilted slightly, as if studying them. Marcus shouted. Don't move. The creature stopped instantly. Not because it was threatened. But because it chose to. Marcus pulled the trigger. The gunshot exploded across the rooftop. The bullet struck the zombie in the chest. The creature staggered back a step. But it didn't fall. Instead, it slowly looked down at the wound. Then back at Marcus. And something terrifying happened. It smiled. Marcus whispered. No way. Eva raised her rifle. That thing isn't trying to kill us. The zombie lifted one hand slowly. Marcus braced himself, expecting an attack. But the creature simply pointed toward the northern skyline. Marcus frowned. What is it doing? The zombie made a sound. Not a growl. Not a scream. Words. Broken. Distorted. But unmistakably human. Come. Marcus froze. Eva's eyes widened. Did it just talk? The creature repeated the word. Come. Marcus shook his head in disbelief. That's impossible. The zombie pointed north again. Then it spoke another word. Leader. Eva's voice trembled slightly. It wants us to follow it. Marcus laughed nervously. Yeah, that's not happening. The zombie remained perfectly calm. Then suddenly, the humming sound spread through the city again. Marcus looked over the rooftop edge. Thousands of zombies were turning toward the building. But they weren't charging. They were simply watching. Marcus turned back toward the creature. Your boss sent you, huh? The zombie didn't respond. Instead, it slowly began walking toward the rooftop door again. Then it stopped and looked back at them. Waiting. Eva lowered her rifle slightly. Marcus. What? I think it's a messenger. Marcus stared at her. You're suggesting we follow a zombie? I'm suggesting something bigger is happening. Marcus looked toward the northern skyline again. The massive figure in the distance was closer now. Even from miles away, its presence felt overwhelming. Thousands of zombies surrounded it like an army. Marcus felt the weight of the situation pressing down on him. If that thing is controlling all of them. Eva nodded. Then it's the reason they stopped attacking humans. Marcus looked at the messenger zombie again. It stood silently near the stairwell door. Waiting. Marcus sighed. I hate this plan already. The young survivor panicked. You're not actually going with it, right? Marcus answered honestly. I don't think we have a choice. Eva glanced over the edge of the rooftop again. The streets below were completely filled. Escape wasn't possible. Marcus slung the rifle over his shoulder. All right. He looked directly at the messenger. Lead the way. The zombie turned immediately and began walking down the stairwell. Eva followed. Marcus hesitated for one last moment before stepping toward the door. He looked out across the city. The enormous horde continued gathering in the streets. And far in the distance, the giant leader stood waiting. Marcus whispered quietly, "This is a really bad idea." Then he followed the messenger into the darkness. As they reached the street level, Marcus suddenly realized something terrifying. The zombies around them weren't looking at Eva. They weren't looking at the other survivor. Every single one of them was staring at Marcus. Eva noticed it too. Her voice dropped to a whisper. "Marcus, I don't think the leader wants all of us." Marcus felt his stomach sink. Then who does it want? Eva looked directly into his eyes. "You." The streets were silent again. Marcus walked slowly behind the messenger zombie, his heart pounding with every step. Eva followed beside him, her rifle lowered but ready. The third survivor trailed behind nervously, constantly glancing at the endless rows of undead surrounding them. Thousands of zombies filled the streets. Yet none of them attacked. None of them even moved. They simply watched. But Marcus could feel their attention focused on him. Every step he took felt heavier than the last. "They're staring at you," the survivor whispered. Marcus forced a weak smile. "Yeah. I noticed." Eva looked around carefully. "It's like they're expecting something." The messenger zombie continued walking north without hesitation. Step by step, it guided them deeper into the city. The buildings grew taller. The streets wider. And the number of zombies kept increasing. Marcus had never seen so many infected gathered in one place. Tens of thousands. Maybe more. Finally, they reached a massive open plaza between several ruined skyscrapers. The messenger zombie stopped. Marcus looked around. The plaza was completely filled with zombies. But they weren't chaotic like before. They stood in organized rows. Like an audience. Waiting. Marcus felt a cold chill crawl down his spine. What is this place? Eva stared ahead. I think this is where they gathered. Then the crowd of zombies slowly began to move. Not toward Marcus. Away from him. The undead parted like a sea of gray flesh, creating a path through the center of the plaza. Marcus swallowed hard. They're making a road. The messenger zombie stepped aside. And pointed forward. Eva's voice dropped to a whisper. He's waiting for you. Marcus followed the path with his eyes. At the end of the corridor of zombies, something massive stood in the shadows. The leader. Marcus had seen it from the rooftop earlier. But up close, it was far more terrifying. The creature stood nearly 8 feet tall. Its body looked partially mutated, muscles twisted and swollen beneath decaying skin. But its posture was upright. Controlled. Powerful. And its eyes glowed faintly in the darkness. Marcus felt his breath catch in his throat. That's not just an infected. Eva nodded slowly. No. That's something else. The giant zombie stepped forward. The ground seemed to tremble slightly under its weight. The surrounding zombies bowed their heads. Marcus felt his heartbeat pounding in his ears. The creature stopped only a few feet away from him. Then it leaned forward slightly, studying him. Marcus forced himself not to step back. The leader raised one massive hand. Every zombie in the plaza froze instantly. Complete silence filled the city. Then the creature spoke. Its voice was deep and distorted. Like broken machinery trying to imitate human speech. Human. Marcus felt his stomach drop. It was talking. The leader pointed directly at him. You. Marcus glanced nervously at Eva. Why me? The creature continued speaking slowly. Signal, inside you. Marcus frowned. What signal? The giant zombie reached forward and pressed one clawed finger against Marcus's chest. Marcus suddenly felt a strange vibration through his body. Like a faint electrical pulse. The leader tilted its head. Carrier. Eva's eyes widened in horror. Oh no. Marcus looked at her. What does that mean? Eva stepped closer slowly. Her voice trembled. Marcus, remember when you got scratched 2 weeks ago? Marcus's blood ran cold. You said it wasn't deep. Eva nodded nervously. It wasn't. Marcus stared at the leader. So why am I not infected? The giant zombie answered. You, different. The creature pointed toward the surrounding hordes. Next. Marcus's mind raced. You're saying I'm turning into one of you? The leader shook its head slowly. Not zombie. Then it spoke the words that made Marcus's heart stop. Bridge. Eva whispered in fear. A bridge, between humans and them. Marcus felt dizzy. So that's why they stopped attacking? The leader nodded once. You command. Marcus stared at the endless army surrounding him. Thousands of undead eyes watching him silently. Waiting. Command what? The creature stepped closer. Its glowing eyes locked onto Marcus. Future. The leader suddenly dropped to one knee. The massive creature bowed its head. And instantly, every zombie in the plaza did the same. Tens of thousands of undead kneeling at once. Marcus's heart pounded wildly. What are they doing? Eva whispered in disbelief. They're submitting to you. Marcus felt the weight of the moment crashing down on him. An entire zombie army. Waiting for his command. But before he could say anything, the leader suddenly lifted its head. Its glowing eyes turned toward the sky. The humming sound began again. But this time, it wasn't coming from the zombies. It was coming from far above the clouds. Marcus looked up slowly. Something enormous moved across the night sky. Far larger than anything they had seen before. The leader's voice became darker. Stronger. Creators, returning. Eva's face went pale. What creators? Marcus stared at the massive shadow in the clouds. The leader spoke one final sentence. Real war begins now. Marcus looked at the endless zombie army kneeling before him. Then back at the enormous shape descending through the clouds. His voice trembled. You're telling me the zombie apocalypse was only the beginning? The leader slowly nodded. And the sky above the ruined city began to open.